Let's get straight to my next guest. Harry Miller is former police officer and founder of Fair Cop. Good afternoon to you, Harry.
Good afternoon, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. There's a couple of big stories I want to talk to you about. First up, I just find this mind-blowing. The Crown Prosecution Service has appealed against a High Court judge's decision to overturn the criminal conviction of a man who burned a Koran outside the Turkish consulate in London. This is Hamit Coskun. He was initially found guilty of a religiously aggravated public order offence, having shouted F Islam and various other things while holding a flaming Koran in his hand. He was attacked by a man who went back into the Turkish embassy to come back out with a knife, ruthlessly stabbed at him. He was kicked on the ground. Astonishing, the man who attacked him got a suspended sentence, even though he's on video, could easily have killed him, and wasn't charged with attempted murder, which is what he should have been charged with. Hamit Coskun, he appealed, didn't he? And then he basically was found, you know, to have his so-called crime overturned. Why is the Crown Prosecution Service appealing against that judgment?
Well, it's completely and utterly bizarre, isn't it? I mean, think about what the Crown is. The Crown was based, our Crown as it stands right now, was based on an act of desecration when Henry VIII stuck two fingers up to the Pope and went around and started dissolving the monasteries. We have part of our freedom. Part of our freedom means that we have to be able to blaspheme, we have to be able to be rude, and against the dissolution of the monasteries, a simple book burning is child's play, quite frankly. I'm a Christian. I don't think book burning is particularly smart.
No.
You want to express your dislike of the Christian religion by burning a copy of the New Testament or the Old Testament or both. Frankly, I couldn't care less. And we need to have exactly the same principle when it comes to any other religion.
But also, we're not talking...
I'm
with you. Look, I personally, I wouldn't burn any book, and I certainly wouldn't burn someone else's religious text. I think it's rude, and I don't think it's good manners. But I think it is perfectly legitimate for someone who has, in the case of Hamit Coskun, he has fled Turkey because he has been persecuted because of his non-religious, his non-Islamic views, to stand outside a political building, the Turkish embassy, and make his statement. We no longer have blasphemy laws in this country. It's his own property. He's entitled to do what he sodding well wants with his own property and give his views on a religion with his own property. I always thought it was extraordinary he was arrested anyway, but particularly given that the argument given by the police and indeed by the judge in his original trial was that by definition he must have been provocative because someone got a knife and attacked him. So therefore what he did must have been bad, as opposed to thinking maybe we have a problem with the people who think that if they don't like what someone says about their religion, they go and get a knife and stab someone.
Well, this is the argument that's straight out of the domestic abusers playbook.
Isn't it? Yes.
Absolutely. Where you go, they made me do it. They did something that so offended me, I had no choice but to slap them around the face, stab them, do whatever. And what is quite astonishing here is that the Crown Prosecution Service have said, see, we agree with this. Yeah. It's an act of propagation against the religion of Islam. Now, of course, there wasn't any law called provoking Islam, so they made one up. And then when they were caught out for making up a law, they said, oh, an innocent mistake. Now, you're the Crown Prosecution Service. You have one job, and that is to, first of all, understand what the law of the land is.
Yes.
And then to prosecute it without fear and without favour. But that's not what the Crown Prosecution Service wants to do. And in conjunction with many of our chief constables, the law is now secondary to something else. And the thing it is secondary to is religious conformity. This is the Conformity Prosecution Service, not the Crown.
But the thing is also, I mean, you think about, you know, when we talk about threats to someone saying, like, oh, I don't know, the Batley Grammar School teacher who simply showed an image of the Prophet Muhammad to have a conversation about the attacks on Charlie Hebdo with his children in a religious studies class. I mean, he's still in, was it 5 years? He's still in hiding now with his wife and family because of the threats. Not a single person who made death threats to him, which was so considered to be so convincing that the police warned him he had to go into hiding. Not a single person has been charged with that. So it's okay to make a death threat against somebody for going about their completely lawful job as a school teacher, but it's not okay to do something that's not against the law, which is to burn your own Koran.
Yeah, exactly. This is all victim blaming. I think as well about West Yorkshire, where there was that young child dropped a copy of his own Koran
Yeah.
on the school floor.
Which he'd
And
brought in as a
now,
part of a bet, and he's a kid.
he was denounced for it, and senior police officers sat with the imams to denounce the family. That is blasphemy law by the back door. And what worries me here is this is giving a green light to every religious fundamentalist, an ideological nutter, to go out there, kick off, commit some kind of atrocity, and then turn around and use the defence of "they made me do it." And then the Crown Prosecution Service, on current form, along with the police, will say, "See, we."
Well, and again, this is because the police and our politicians and the courts, the Crown Prosecution Service are completely and utterly imbued with this ideological stance on all these different things. I must ask you also about these demonstrations, protests outside a synagogue in St John's Wood, North London yesterday. It's actually really very near me, and I'm gutted I didn't see it too late because I would have happily gone down there to show my solidarity. But ordinary Jewish families going into synagogue. There was a couple of events there. One of the events was about people moving to Israel. I wonder why they'd want to do that. And these are largely Jewish but anti-Zionist protesters, not outside the Israeli embassy, outside a synagogue, just a few weeks after two men were murdered, trying to protect other people in a synagogue by a complete lunatic terrorist attacker. Islamist terror, and the police said there was nothing they could do. They couldn't prevent this protest. You're a former police officer, could they?
Yes, of course they could prevent this protest. There's a whole bunch of public order acts that allow the police to move in and protect people from this. Once again, the police took a decision to allow this to happen because, unfortunately, hatred of Jews and hatred of Israel is one of the last hatreds that the respectable people are allowed to indulge in. That's the way it seems to me. And so they allow it. And by allowing it, so obviously, they, in fact, condone the message. It's not that long ago, is it, Julia, since a Jewish man exiting his own front door was arrested for his own safety because his presence might have offended a protest. This is where we're at. Anti-Semitism is absolutely rife in this country, and the Crown Prosecution Service, the police, and far too many MPs are absolutely complicit.
Absolutely. Still very, very near the synagogue. A few years ago, was it 2021? Those men, license plate clear, pretty clear on video, pro-Palestinian flags, shouting about killing Jews, raping their wives and daughters. No prosecution, nothing. They were arrested, they're identified. No one prosecuted them. The police are making decisions that are clearly very questionable here. So appreciate you joining us. Voice of reason, as always, Harry Miller, former police officer and founder of Fair Cop. Sam Armstrong, I want to come back to you on the Hamit Coskun case because you're at the Free Speech Union as well. You know Hamit Coskun. You've been working with him. What did he make? I mean, he got prosecuted. The man who attacked him got a suspended sentence. Astonishingly, then he won his High Court appeal, which I think Free Speech Union funded, and now CPS are coming at him again.
Yeah, it was a pretty unpleasant exchange. I did it over text. He struggles a bit with English, but did it over text, and you could tell that his heart sunk because he'd actually come to the UK because he'd been a victim of a terrorist attack, and his family had been a victim of a terrorist attack in Turkey. He protested against Islamism. He was locked up there for 7 years for it. He was about to get locked up again, and he came to the UK thinking he would be free to speak his mind in a Christian country about the religion that, in his view, is an evil and malevolent one. And in exchange, what did he get? He's been prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, one of the most senior prosecutors in the country sent by the CPS to prosecute him, and his attacker, despite having, in my view, attempted to murder him.
Oh, no, I don't think it's... If you could only see that video, you know that was attempted murder.
And what does he get? A suspended sentence.
Yeah. It's just
everything you need to know.
But the CPS choose what they trust. If you've got a video of someone seeing someone they don't like, someone doing something, and going into a building to get a knife, to come back, to then and repeatedly, I'm going to kill you while stabbing at him. How is that not attempted murder? It's a miracle that it wasn't murder.